Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Chapter 2 is here, and we're gonna go ahead and read it. I just read it, and I have some thoughts. I'm gonna go over what I think is important, and you know, we're gonna talk about it because some very interesting stuff happened this chapter, and I don't really trust the twin here. I don't trust Maru's twin at all, especially given what happened right there at the end, which it didn't make sense to me at first, and then I went back up and I double checked some of the tattoos, and I'm like, oh my, that is the other one. That's not the good one. That's the kind of sketchy one, you know, the one we're sort of looking out for right now, keeping our eyes on. And one thing I also noticed was in the first chapter, I thought that was Maru on like the first page where he had his eye open or whatever, talking about the sorcerers on Japan. And no, that was the other guy. Cross was his name. So there's Maru and Cross. The chapter opens up with the suits, the people that are above, Yuka and Tsurugi, talking about procedures and stuff. We don't know if these aliens have diseases, or, you know, would it be offending if we sent 2 males or 2 women, 1 male, 1 woman. So the diplomats with Japan and the diplomats behind the Sumerians are finally meeting and talking. And this guy I thought looked a bit like Tengen, not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure everyone gets that, you know, look here. But I think it's interesting here because I don't even know this guy's name in the top left, but these two are the suits. This guy we've seen work with Yuka and Tsurugi, and we have, for them, they have Maru with them. And then so Maru's kind of on, sort of seems to be on Japan's side right now, given especially what happened in this chapter. And then we have Cross down here with the Sumerians. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic here. And I like, this is too easy to tell. I would be not disappointed. I'd be surprised if they end up obviously don't fighting over, but the Japanese matter or the Earthlings matter. Oh, but what about the Sumerians? And then it's like Cross and Maru fighting, and that's probably gonna be a sick fight, you know, 2 ideals kind of clashing. So they come in, they talk, they meet, and then as soon as he opens their mouth, it's actually kind of shocking because these Sumerians, you see this little panel here, almost like a JoJo's or a Persona thing, like he's like the, you know, the cut through, but they're speaking Japanese. So really weird that they can just communicate like that. I don't know if it's maybe some translation sorcerer technique or whatever, but yeah, definitely raises a flag there. Something to be curious about or be aware of, you know. Here's a bit of an aura moment here. They meet, they sit down, then they ask, the Sumerians are asking, can I bring, and he says here, word for word, it is because the concept of being unarmed is meaningless for him, so we cannot comfortably let him attend unless you understand that he has no hostile intentions. That looks like a villain, bro. You can't follow me. And then after that, it shows kind of our Japanese diplomats there talking about how wow, this really is on par with the Ryuma Sukuna event 68 years ago, and that the Sumerians could easily overtake Japan if they wanted to. And then this is just a crazy shot here. You have that guy behind him, and then you have Cross under him, bro. So I want to go ahead and throw out a little theory here. I'm gonna throw out a little theory that guy is not actually the strongest. That's his ears. That's not his hair, by the way. That's his ears. I'm gonna throw out a little theory. I think Cross is actually the strongest one. Maybe it's like a Beerus Whis situation, you know? Not exactly, but I just get the feeling that Cross is maybe hiding something, bro. It's only 2 chapters, you know, so who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? And it's a cool moment. You have this guy saying, oh, we gotta avoid war at all costs, and then we must strive for true harmony. Kind of aligning. We have this guy, fitting that Maru's on his side too. We have this kind of dynamic here, oh, we must, between both these characters, that they're striving for true harmony or whatever, you know, and they can't let things escalate to a certain point because obviously war is bad. And they're talking about leaving the fate of the new era in the world in the hands of a couple of teenagers. But do not fret, do not fear, it is the grandchildren of Maki and Yuta. So I think we'll be all right. Now, this is a panel I kind of wanted to talk about for a second. Now, they were talking about Maru, right, with the 3rd eye, and they were talking about aliens. We have Yuka and Tsurugi here talking about all the aliens, and she says, well, there are a lot of weird looking sorcerers out there. I've seen some who are missing eyes, sure, but never ones with extras. So translations are always weird. We knew how bad it was, like with JJK originally. Who the person? I mean, yeah, John Wary. A lot of people didn't like his translations. I read a lot of it, the original, and then whenever I started reading TCB scans, it actually got a little bit easier to read. I feel like I understood more to a certain extent. But reading this how it is, I wonder if she means just the eyes or extra anything, like extra eyes, extra arms, extra fingers, extra noses, extra mouths, anything. Because if she means everything and anything, does that mean or I guess Sukuna's true form, was it never actually made public knowledge or never recorded, or only recorded and given to like people who needed to know, like a need to know basis, or was it just never spoke about? I don't know. If anything, if she is talking about extra anything, she doesn't know about Sukuna. So at this point in the chapter, we're sort of talking about if Maru, they're trying to basically confirm the existence of aliens and if that's actually what they're dealing with, because no one's going to tell them, since they're like, you know, grunts, I guess, in the hierarchy, food chain, whatever, for the sorcerers. And then they're thinking, oh, is Maru one? Even if he is one, blah, yada, yada. So they're pretty much trying to figure out. And given who told them about it, there's only one place to go. They're checking with the villain from last chapter. And he tells how basically he came under that information, talking about how it's easy, I guess, you know, basically hack the database, that sort of thing, about how they should keep paper files. And then they name drop, or he names drop it to them, saying they're aliens. They call themselves the Sumerians. And he reveals there's a mothership containing 50,000 Sumerians above Japan. But like, I guess it's kind of wrapped up by a barrier or some barrier technique or alien technology. So now we got to figure out, you know, how to get a view on these guys. And this is a pretty cool page here. I liked it, you know, for like development or, you know, goal ambitions wise. We have Tsurugi here talking about how he wants to be strong like Maki, and they're talking about the ring, saying, and I wanted to give him the ring back this whole time, and Tsurugi's always wanted to give it back to me. So that's a cool little, you know, dynamic there. And then we actually see Shadow, not full face, but we see Yuta. We see old man Yuta, the goat, or the fraud, whichever side you're on, you know, who knows. He copies techniques and shows up the last minute, so take that how you will. And now we get a double spread. Now this, I think, is definitely a good time to use a double spread in manga like this. So now the thing that's happening here is that guy in the prison told them that you know, there's 50,000 up there. At some point, they're gonna have to resupply. You know, they're running out of, I guess, supplies. And if you go to the top of a mountain, you know, the second they resupply from Earth or whatever, you might be able to see the ship. Maybe the barrier technique will drop, or, you know, whatever is making it invisible, you know, that'll go out while they resupply. So they get to the top of the mountain, and boom, they see the spaceship, and that has a weird look. It looks like a monolith. It just looks like a big log or something. Definitely doesn't look like any spaceship I've ever seen, man. That's some weird technology, but I think this is a great use of a double panel. This is basically it confirming to our two main characters here, aliens are real. Another great page here, by the way. I like this one a lot. Basically, it's up to these guys, given the treaty and aliens and all that, the paranormal stuff, it's up to the sorcerers to deal with the alien threat. So basically, all this big alien invasion, it's not gonna be up to America, this or that or whatever. We know how, given JJK, all the most cursed stuff, it shows up in Japan. It doesn't show up at all in other countries, or it's very rare for sorcerers to exist in other countries. Yeah, they either don't show up at all or it's very, very rare. So basically, it's up to these two to save the day. So we got our protagonist here, and we got a goal and an enemy in mind. And then we're met with our twins again, Cross and Maru, and they're talking about how their opinions are, you know, kind of split down the middle on the matter. They're on opposite sides. Between, here it says, between conflict and coexistence. And Maru says, and he's kind of angry here, he says, no, conflict is wrong. So our goat Maru here, I'm liking it. That's our good guy for sure, man. I have no doubts. I actually felt a little bad here for my boy Maru. He's asking his brother Cross if he wanted to get breakfast tomorrow, and he just kind of blew him off and said, I'm busy. It hurt a little bit. Now, toward the end of the chapter, you have... He's kind of ore farming here, not gonna lie. Hands behind the back, but he thinks he's Piccolo. Okay, second to last page of the chapter here, we have who I thought was Maru up on this roof. And then Tsurugi comes up, he says, hey Maru, what you doing? But you can tell if you've paid attention in these last two chapters, or just in this chapter, the swirl on the cheek is Maru, and then like the straight line is Cross. So next page here, makes a joke or whatever. Cross says, don't talk to me. He goes, the hell's his problem? So, and then you can just kind of see he's gone. Is that speed up scaling? Is that a shadow? No, I'm kidding. Okay, so that's pretty much in the chapter, and it looks like Cross is gonna be our villain, man. And that guy, the representative who was brought or whatever, that kind of had like the horns. Ichigo's Vasto. No, I'm kidding. Whoever had the horns and like the big ears, it's probably gonna be him and Cross. Those two seem to be the villains, and I'm going to go ahead and assume those are the two strongest aliens out of the mothership right now, out of the ones that are on Earth. There's only like a few, like four. Yeah, four. And all the ones up in the spaceship. So I'm gonna assume Cross and him are the strongest. Those are our two enemies so far. So overall, I think this is a good chapter. We got a lot of information about what's happening right now, and we kind of got confirmation that it's because of the treaty and whatever. It's going to be our sorcerers are going to be the ones dealing with it, and it's going to be mainly our two. We got Maki's grandchild, and I still think that's so cool, man, just to hold this in that thing. And again, I want to reiterate this because I said it last chapter review. I love the fact that they did 68 years for the time skip and not anything lower, because you know, we see time skip sometimes. I'm using this as an example. I love Boruto, as you know, anyone can see. With Boruto, you get the very next generation, and the current generation is still relevant. A big portion of next generations, before the time skip, it had Naruto with Sasuke and all that, and Shikamaru. All of them are extremely relevant, but given, which isn't bad. I'm just saying this is a different way of storytelling, which, I mean, I like it because it's refreshing here. I'm not saying either is inherently better or worse, but we don't even get the next generation in JJK. We get the generation after the next generation. So we basically get a whole new, we get the same world. We get an entire new cast of characters that we're going to get to, you know, learn about and everything. It kind of stands on its own 2 feet, without any clinging to previous generations, outside of flashbacks of old man Maki, or old woman Maki, and old man Yuta. Just flashbacks, you know. So we haven't seen any characters that are relevant from back then in this manga, which I think is a little bit risky. I'll be honest, as a mangaka, as a writer, whatever, it is a bit risky, but also I think it makes it way more fun to dive into. It can do whatever it wants. It's its own series. I'm just sitting here scrubbing through the chapter right now. Again, I mean, I read it once and then kind of went through it again just now for you guys. And I mean, I don't really have much to say, man. You know, I guess we just have to see what happens next chapter. You know, it's just one chapter. I don't think there's too much. There's a little bit more to talk about last chapter, obviously, but I hope, again, I just want to talk about my little theory. I hope Cross is a stronger one out of those, because then we could get like a Beerus, Whis kind of vibe dynamic there. But toward the end of the chapter, we had Tsurugi actually split up from Yuka and kind of lied. So I wonder how he knew where Cross was. That was something I was kind of thinking about. He just knew the rooftop Cross was on. First time he ever met this guy, thought it was Maru. And by his face at the end, you can tell he definitely thought it was Maru. He didn't think it was someone else. So I wonder if, like, maybe later on, like next chapter or later down the road, he'll meet Maru again and be like, wait, what happened to your tattoo? You know, because he definitely looked at Cross and be like, I've always had this. It's like, no, it was straight. And then maybe he's like, my brother's down here or whatever. Like, what's he? Who knows, man? Who knows? You know, I feel like maybe Cross wasn't exactly where he was supposed to be. But maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this chapter down below. I am a little bit fearful for, I guess, Maru. And bro, just thinking right now, I feel like there's a slight chance by the end of the series, one of these people might die, either Tsurugi or Yuka. But hey, we'll see. Anyway, that's it for now. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. If you did enjoy, make sure to comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Peace.